Hi everybody, my name is Marta Mama. I'm your basic queer bitch. And I'm gonna have to come up with a new intro since Drag Race España is officially over. But I promised an extra video to talk about the little viewing party that they did and to answer some of your questions. And I'm also going to announce what's going to happen with my channel. So first of all, they gave us an extra episode after the finale, and thank you very much. It was very appreciated. And what they did is that they filmed, just like they did in UK season 2, they filmed the day that the finale was aired, and they had a little viewing party with the 3 finalists. The host wasn't Supreme, the host was Jonathan Ruiz, and I think he did such an amazing job at this crowning episode because you could really tell that he was a fan of the show, and I really appreciate that. He knew all the social media of all the queens. You could really tell that he has been following not only Drag Race España, but probably all the previous Drag Race from all around the world. So I really enjoyed it. The queens looked gorgeous. Killer Queen looked gorgeous. She was a little bit she didn't know what to do with her arms since she had this dress that came out on the hips. So she was like, what do I have to do with my arms now? Carmen looked gorgeous with all the little baby hairs. That's from that was very popular with this Spanish singer and actress that we have, Estrellita Castro. And it's very traditional here that since then, since the 50s, the 60s, since she was a star, many times when you're growing up and they dress you with the flamenco dress, with the traditional Andalusia costume that they have, they would many times just draw the little the little curls with the baby hairs. Your mom would come with a black eyeliner and just draw little curls, since this singer made it super popular. So it's something that's embedded in our culture. I don't know, I thought it was cute. And Sagittaria looked just gorgeous. Wasn't Sagittaria, the 3 of them looked better than in the finale. I guess this time they had a lot more time to prepare their gowns, and I just think that we would have enjoyed even more this season if they gave the queens a little more time to prepare. I think they only had 2-3 weeks, and it wasn't even all that time because they didn't know all the different costumes and challenges that they were going to have from the very beginning. So for some of them, they even had 1 week, and I think that's very stressful, and we would all benefit if they could have a little more time to prepare, because even getting the money to do the stuff is just it's a hustle. So yeah, it was cute. Carmen won, and it was extra funny because they did this confetti bomb, and because gay people are behind this confetti bomb was so extra. There was so much confetti you couldn't even see their faces. It was 10 seconds of just nothing on TV because of all the pink confetti that they had. I thought it was very funny, very extra, and very cute. I'm here for everything that's extra cute and funny. So yeah, I liked it. I actually cried a lot. I was super tired that day from work, and when I watched it, I haven't cried all season, basically, but I don't know, I was tired and I felt very proud of them. So I really enjoyed having that last episode. I really enjoyed the host. I really enjoyed the looks. And yeah, it was very cute. You guys have been leaving me some questions in my previous video and in my Twitter account. So I've got a bunch of questions, and I think the easiest way to answer them is if I go by blogs. I make like a blog that talks about this season of Drag Race, another blog that talks about like the possible second season of Drag Race España, and like about queer culture, about me. There are like different like lots of questions. So let me start with the ones that talk about this season of Drag Race, okay? The first block of questions that I'm going to answer are about this season of Drag Race España. The first question I have is from Richie Reach. And it says, do you have any scalding tea about why Carmen doesn't like Poopy at all? My feeling is that Poopy was nothing, but for Carmen was, you're gone, girl. If you watch closely every episode, Carmen would reject or be shady to Poopy. For instance, in the top 4, when Carmen gets teary, she rejects Poopy, trying to hug her. Okay. Richie, I don't really think that there is any beef between them. I know that from like the very, very first episode, the very first thing that Carmen says to Poopy is like, yeah, you tried, like, we look cute. Yeah, well, you tried. You know, she was being shady from the very beginning, but can we please remember that these people are drag queens? And this is like friendly, bantering, like being shady. I don't think there's no like ill will with Poopy, with no one. I just like, there are some things that Carmen probably doesn't like about Poopy. There are some things that where she feels that Poopy is maybe a threat to her because, you know, Poopy is everything that Carmen isn't, and like the other way around. But I don't think there's any beef, to be honest. I think they're busy like with other stuff to have any beef between them. I don't see them like being very... I heard something about actually Poopy being shady to Killer Queen, like in the Madrid scene before everything. I heard some things of Poopy being shady in general. And I don't know, like that's what I expect from her. I hope they don't get mad. I think Poopy understands all of this pretty well, and I hope the other ones too. But Poopy can be, you know, offensive and shady at times, and just like Carmen, like they're drag queens. It's not, I don't think there's a lot more behind it. Okay, the next question was in Spanish. I'm going to try to translate as best as I can, and it's from Ica Nogar, and they ask, how do you consider that the franchise has treated Drag Race España? Do you think it would be necessary to explain the LGBTQ local context in like further detail? And would you be able to do it like officially if they wanted to hire you? Girl. First of all, I think the franchise didn't think too much about Drag Race España, just like another one, just like Holland or Down Under, and you know, those didn't do really well. So if you think about it, there are not a lot of mentions in RuPaul's Twitter account. I don't even think that RuPaul has even watched one single episode. To be honest, like, she hasn't commented anything on her Twitter. I think she only commented one thing about Paca la Piraña, and that's it. Usually in all the franchises, there is something, just like a little message from RuPaul, like a little clip that says something. And we didn't get that this season. Even the fashion photo review that we have, you know, they usually do this fashion photo review where they review the fashions of the people. You know, it's usually hosted by Raja and Raven, and this season it was like Alexis and Nikki Doll, and from the 8 episodes, I think they only did like 3 or 4, and you could really tell that either they didn't watch the full episode, or they didn't watch the full season, or they weren't understanding it. I don't know why this is. We didn't have like other Rue girls that usually do like reviews or whatever, reviewing Drag Race España. I know that Manila and Latrice are doing the job, but we didn't have like first impressions with Bob and Monet. We didn't have that. We didn't have Yuhua Hamasaki's bootleg opinions. We didn't have like all the extra insight that we usually have from the Rue girls. So not only officially by the franchise, but the girls that came out of the franchise haven't like paid really much attention to Drag Race España. And I'm honestly cool with that. You know, it's probably one of the reasons why Drag Race España is like the best rated season of Drag Race ever in IMDb. I have no problem with it. I think that maybe the problem with the whole franchise is that RuPaul is too much like in the center of everything. The production is too much like in the center of everything. They want to make it interesting because they've had so many seasons that they always want a twist. They want the viewer to be engaged. And RuPaul talks as this like spiritual guide, coach, counselor, mother nature, goddess. And I think it's not necessary. I think that it would be easier if we just showcase the talent and we forget about like making it interesting. When we've had in Drag Race history like plot twists that have really made the program interesting, it's usually like the ones people like are the ones that come from the girls. For example, in All Stars 3, when Ben de la Creme, peaced out, that is something that came from Vendela. I thought that plot twist was lit. Or when Shangela was saying, like with her lipstick, basically was like letting people know that she was going to eliminate Trixie, but she didn't. When the twists come from the girls, I think they are perceived a lot better. But when it comes from the production and they try to do something and I don't think it's received as well, and you can just like watch All Star 6 and it's everything I don't like about RuPaul. You can see it right there. Of course I'm watching, but honestly I think we have to stop to like try to make things interesting. Just showcase the talent and just let them be. I think it would be a lot easier. Do I think that it's necessary to explain the LGBTQ context, blah, blah, blah? No, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's something like extra that we could do. But to be able to sell a product, and we have to remember that this is a product, it has to be easily understandable by everyone without a lot of context. That's one of the things that would make something like easier to sell to everybody. If you needed like someone explaining you the whole context, you wouldn't enjoy it. Would I be willing to comment on these things if I was asked officially? Honestly, I don't think so. I don't think they would ask me, but if they did, and I am like busy working 100 jobs, and with my like 800 children, I only have 2 children, but I'm like a single busy mom, I'd listen to the offer. But I'm no one. I don't know a lot about anything. So yeah, I don't think that they would ask me. And if they asked me, I don't think I would do it, to be honest. Next question is also in Spanish from my beloved Tonica Leprechaun. She is an amazing drag queen that also makes reviews of Drag Race España in Spanish. I'm gonna leave her channel down below. And she says, what songs or singers did you miss in the lip syncs? So I think I've already explained this. I'm not very big in pop music. I don't know a lot about what's going on in the music industry right now. To be honest, I have missed a singer from one of the big classic divas. In the last episode, we had a Rocío Dúrcal song. Rocío Dúrcal is one of the big singer divas in Spain, but I think they chose her because she was well known internationally, like in Mexico and in Latin America. But here in Spain, there are like bigger singers like Rocío Jurado. I would have loved one of these ballads from Rocío Jurado. I would have loved maybe some copla, things that have been center and part of the queer culture for many, many years. Since when we have our dictatorship, we couldn't use like queer codes that everyone else in other countries were using. We had to find like queer codes in the traditional stuff that was available to us. So yeah, I would have loved to hear like some Rocío Jurado or some Isabel Pantoja or something like that. I think that would be like obvious and cool, but I really like that they include Monica Naranjo for the first episode. I would have loved personally if they were brave enough to put some Samantha Hudson songs. She was on the Snatch Game as one of the like guests in the Snatch Game. Her songs are like so lit. I love them so much. So yeah, I would have loved any of those, but I know it's not gonna happen. Next question is also in Spanish. It comes from Polixena Sacrificada, and it says, why wasn't there any Black representation, not only in the drag queens, but in general in the whole show? I 100% agree with you. It has no explanation, and it's something, I think it's something that, yeah, we can love the show, but we have to remember that the drag they're using, the drag language, the queer like codes and languages that they are using come from Black and Indigenous people of color, and that's where they come from. So if you have a whole production full of white people and there are no like Black or Indigenous people of color in the like behind the cameras, that means that you're using their culture that doesn't come from white people in order to make a benefit. I don't think that's very nice. I'm glad we had Inti as an Indigenous representation. They're going to say that they just go on talent, and since, you know, Spain doesn't have a percentage of Black people even similar to any other country in Europe, we don't have a lot of Black people in Spain, and those Black people that we have are not really integrated. It's something that we all should feel ashamed of, but I wish they were like, you know what, if there was a lot of like people of color behind the cameras, I wouldn't care if the whole cast was white. It wouldn't be nice, but honestly, I would like to have like people of color as producers, as, you know, the lighting technicians, or as makeup artists, or I want to see people of color behind the cameras really, really badly. There is a lot of people of color that do drag in Spain. There is a very big representation. Inti in her social media did this, where she showcased a lot of people of color that did drag in Spain, just to prove a point. There are a lot of people that do drag, and I would love to see more Black people behind the cameras and in front of the cameras, of course. But if I had a cast of 10 Black queens and there was not one single person of color behind the cameras, I wouldn't be okay with that. You know, when you use them as a product and they're not really like benefiting in their communities, like, you know, I would like to have people of color in important positions in the production and the editing and everything else. I think that's just fair. Another question in Spanish from GMZZ Makeup. Hi. They say, what challenge didn't you like, or which one would you have put like in the show? I thought the challenges were okay. Yeah, I would have liked to have seen talent show. I think like we have talent shows for all stars, and I don't know why. I would like to see what talents they come up with, because honestly, when you live in Spain, you're going to work as a drag queen in clubs specifically. So being able to showcase your talent, or why they should go to the club you're performing in like 10 years time when you're not even famous. Like, the talent is something that you're going to live of, and you need to showcase your talent. So I would have loved to see that. I would have loved to see like the Macarena singing. If it was the first episode, she would have never gone home. But well, yeah. Then I have like the mixed question from like first season and second season that says, with which season of Drag Race would you compare Drag Race España? Personally, I would compare Drag Race España to season, maybe UK season 2, but no, I would compare it, to be honest, with US season 6. I think it has like all the different elements, the people that you love, the people that wow you, the talent, the charisma. You know, I think Drag Race season 6 is probably the one that like everyone loves because you love the girls, and it wasn't so much about like the twists of the production. It was more about just like their personalities. So yeah, or Drag Race UK season 2 as well. Let me go with the questions about season 2. I'm gonna start with this one from Amanda, and it's the same one that a lot of people have asked. So a lot of people are asking me what panel of judges would I like to see for season 2, or something like that. So I don't like the Javis in the judging panel, and I don't like Ana Looking in the judging panel. That doesn't mean that I think that this judging panel was worse than others. I just don't like them. I understand why they're there, because, you know, the production company that does Drag Race is like in close relationship with Los Javis. So everything that production company, that network does, is going to include Los Javis. If it's LGBT in any way, shape, or form, Los Javis are going to be there. And not only Los Javis, but all the challenges are like related to things about Los Javis. And we had La Veneno, and we had Physical Química, and we had, you know, like, I'm a bit over it. It's like they are doing advertisement for themselves with Los Javis there and all the showcasing of Los Javis work. We've got a lot of queer culture outside of Los Javis, and I'm a little bit sick of seeing them everywhere. I think they did a good job. They understand what sells or what not, and I think they advertise their work very well. But I don't know, there was something lacking. Ana Looking, I don't like as a judge at all. She says difficult words, but that doesn't mean that her opinions are extra interesting. I just don't like her. I think the judging panel in Spain has lacked humor. We are lacking at least one comedian or someone that is funny, that understands humor. So if you asked me, I would like to see and understanding how TV works. So I'm going to choose like people that work already on TV, that, you know, that would like, not the people that I would like to see in the judging panel individually, but the people that like fit in what I think Drag Race is. I would love to see maybe Mónica Naranjo as a judge. Mónica Naranjo is a Spanish singer. She's like a queer icon. She's a big diva, a more recent diva. She doesn't sing flamenco. She's the singer of the lip sync song that we have in episode 1, Sobreviviré, which is an amazing song. And she has been a judge in many other like contests, reality show contests here in Spain, just like Alaska, who was a guest judge. Alaska is the, you know, the singer that was the guest judge in, I don't know which episode it was, but you know, Alaska, not Alaska Thunderfuck or Alaska. But it's a little problematic to have Alaska in the panel of judges, I guess. I would love to see some comedians, some LGBTQ comedians. I think the obvious answer would be to have Elsa Ruiz. Elsa Ruiz is a comedian, and she's also a gorgeous trans woman. And it's like a big representation of trans people doing things where, you know, you have to like be witty and smart and intelligent. I think like that's the queer representation that I want to see. And I just love her and I think she's very funny. So having a real like trans woman who has done drag before transitioning, that understands all the things that the girls are going through, that can help with the comedy challenges, that can help with the acting challenges, I think that would be a very, very good idea. And instead of like Ana Looking, I would probably have someone like Boris Izaguirre, who is from Venezuela, I believe, and he's a TV personality that talks about like a little bit of everything, like about style and things. He's one of the first like super openly gay people that we had in Spanish TV. I know a lot of people don't like him. I love him. I don't know if there's some tea I don't know about him, but honestly, I love Boris Izaguirre, and I think he would be like the obvious choice. He would be like, I don't know, Ross Matthews in the US. He's funny, witted, super gay. I think it would be like a perfect match. So if I have to choose, I would choose having Supreme as a host, Elsa Ruiz as a judge, and Boris Izaguirre as a judge. And guest judges would be like, you know, Mónica Naranjo and like bigger divas that we have in Spain. Then I have a lot of people that ask me for my wish list for Drag Race España Season 2. It hasn't been, I think, announced or anything like that. We don't know if there's going to be a Season 2. Everyone guesses they're going to be because Holland just got a Season 2 and their first season was like... So the list of queens I would like to see, there are Ariel Rec. I would love to see Satin. I would love to see Samantha Valentines, who is from Andalusia and is a comedian, and she is an ex-partner of the Macarena, and they were like partners for like 4 or 5 years. I would love to see Gadiola. I would love to see people from Canarias, like we had Vulcano. Well, I want to see Drag Setlas. If you don't know who Setlas is, you need to watch a couple videos. I'm gonna leave down below. And I would love to see Drag Chuchi and Drag Ego, who are 2 people that are also doing reviews of Drag Race España. And they're from the Canary Islands. One is the more like traditional diva Canary Islands drag, and the other one is more like of a comedy queen. I'll leave you guys to guess which is which. I would love to see them. There's a lot like Belial. She's from my hometown. I would love to see a lot of like, I would love to see more like hyper queens or like drag kings or non-denominational drag. I would love to see like Margus Masalami or like drag kings. I want to see like more diversity. I know that's something that we cannot hope for. If you ask me who is going to be the winner of the Season 2, I am like 100% sure Ariel Rec, Ruben Revene, is going to win because, you know, they're just like the best and super professional, and I think, yeah, there's no way they're not going to win. So now I'm gonna go with questions that are like for like drag or queer culture in Spain. First question I have is from my friend Miki Kawasaki. Thank you so much, Miki. Is there a pageant drag scene in Spain, or are things mostly club oriented? In Spain, there is no pageant scene whatsoever, not only in drag, but like in general. We have Miss Spain and Mr. Spain, like just like you have Miss USA, but that's basically it. We like that has been quite influential, especially in the 90s, like Miss Spain, but just like the Miss, it's not like a drag pageant. We have drag contests, but it's never like a pageant like you have in the US. Things in Spain are, I would say, 100% club oriented or performance oriented. And that's it. Okay, like, what do you feel about El Gran Hotel de la Reina show? I think it's another form of drag race, putting those different artists in the same box. Yes, it is, but please, we have to remember that this is trying to make the talent that we have seen in Drag Race España and making it into a product, a show where people can enjoy their favorite drag queens and the other ones, and it's a way of, like, I don't know, it's a drag tour, just a regular drag tour. I think it's good in some ways because there's a lot of money behind that, and you can have a big production with dancers, with costumes, with lights. It's something that it wouldn't be possible if there wasn't this tour. But on the other side, it's a lot of drag queens that are very different, just put all together, and in the show that is like this way, and they have these many functions, these, it's a little bit like making it into a consumable product where people can earn money. Would the girls rather have like a one-woman show with the same amount of money in production? I'm sure, but is there any people that is going to invest in that amount of money that it would cost? Like, we have to remember that these drag queens have to eat and pay their bills and pay their rent. And I'm sure that something like this tour is something that's going to benefit them immensely. And it's something that can, like, make people enjoy the drag race experience a lot more. I think it was a good idea, like, money-wise and everything. Is it going to be like the most groundbreaking show that you have ever seen? No, it's something that comes from a TV program, but well, it has queer artists that are never used to having like big amounts of money invested in their shows, and they finally have like shows where people are investing money. So yeah, is it the way of putting them all in a box or whatever? Yeah, but how are you going to make it profitable for them? You know what I mean? It's like a slippery slope. It is what it is, and I'm very happy for them, and it's going to help them in their life, I'm sure. Then I have like two amazing questions from Apple of My Eye at Pinpinyo. And they ask, how has queer culture in Spain been dealing with the Franco era and its remnants? And they also ask, has there been any references to the Inquisition and the treatment of Jews in Spanish queer culture? So I have no idea about the question about the Inquisition and the Jews. I'm sure there is, but it's not something that we talk about too much, not because it's taboo, but because that is something that happened throughout like hundreds and hundreds of years. It's something like very progressive. It's not like the genocide in the Second World War, where it was like a shorter period of time. This happened through centuries and centuries and centuries and centuries. The assimilation, or like Jewish people leaving the country or being assimilated into like the Catholic Church, or it happened through like a long period of time, and it happened a long time ago. Here in Spain, there's not a lot of Jewish people in comparison to other parts of the world. Like, our dictatorship, that was a fascist dictatorship, existed until like the late 70s, beginning of the 80s, like that style. So we haven't developed in the same way that other countries have developed. I don't know anything special that has been done about the Jews and the Inquisition. I haven't seen anything about that. I'm sorry. About Franco, yes, about Franco, there's a lot of things that we do all the time. Like, I'm just gonna explain like a couple of things. This is something that is very close not only because it's close in time, like from the late 70s, but because nowadays in the Spain that we live in, 2021, there's a lot of people that are still very close with like this fascist like mindset that Franco had. And even in the last years, in the last like 5-10 years, the like fascist movement or like the extreme right movement has been like more and more important each year. There's like this huge, even like Nazi resurgence, and it's very scary. So yeah, a lot of drag queens talk about like Franco and those things. It's difficult for me to explain, but I'm just gonna explain like a couple from Samantha Hudson. Samantha Hudson in the last demonstrations that we had for the homophobic violence that we had in Spain was wearing a t-shirt that said Franco died, for example, and they had to like, I don't know why in some media they had to like blur it so you couldn't read it. It's crazy. And Samantha Hudson too, they had to change where Franco's remains were because they were in a like not nice place. It was treated like this huge monument. Imagine that you had like this huge monument where a lot of people went, and it was treated like if it was like a special like church or sacred place, and that's where Hitler is buried. Well, that's what happened in Spain. So they wanted to move Franco's remains. The family didn't know where to put it. Like there was this huge social thing in Spain. And Samantha Hudson, she tweeted, like I think she actually made a change.org page so they would give her Franco remains. Like none of these things are performances. None of these things are, it's just like who queer people are in Spain. Like it's just part of who they are. None of these things are really thought out things. It's just being a queer person in Spain, in my opinion, implicates that you are anti-fascist just because of history. I do not understand if in Spain there are people that consider themselves queer but are from like the extreme right movement. It makes no sense. You understand what I mean. Okay, and let's go with some personal questions. La Gata de Cheshire asked me what is my profession outside of YouTube, and like if I am an artist. And Danielena D asked me if I am an artist, and a lot of people ask me like what my job is and if I am an artist, because I've like mentioned that. I have worked mainly as an English teacher. In university, I actually studied Spanish philology, which is like Spanish language and literature. And I am a writer. I am a street artist and a writer. I'm gonna leave you like one project that I'm doing. It's called Step Mama. It's the solution that I found to include like literature and poetry in the street art with the same like characteristics that street art has. So yeah, I'm doing that. I also draw. I make like, you know, I'm always like doing stuff. I like drawing like geometrical patterns. I do drawings that are usually done by computers and by computer systems. I like to do them by hand and like solving equations and problems in a like graphic way. I sell my drawings. They are like handmade, all of them. They're not prints. I make them with a pen and paper. Yeah, I'm always like doing something different. I'm a very artistic oriented person, but my profession has never been something specifically artistic, since I really enjoy art being like an escape from my day-to-day life. La Gata de Cheshire again asked me how long did I live in the US and how old was I, and where and if it was a good experience. I moved to the US when I was a newborn. I was a couple months old, and I came back I've been living here since I was 9 years old now. So yeah, that's the period I lived in the US. I actually uh, didn't speak fluent Spanish until I was like 9 or 10. I did understand Spanish from my parents who spoke to me in Spanish, but I always answered in English. It's like if you have a bilingual family, you understand what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know, in the US, when, I don't know, your grandma speaks to you in Spanish and you understand a little bit, but you're not like fluent in that language. That happened to me. But well, I picked it up quickly, and that's what I studied in university. So yeah, I'm fluent in Spanish now. And now I have some mistakes in English. I notice them, you guys. Like, let me tell you, I'm an English teacher, and I cringe so much when I'm editing because, I don't know. Was it a good experience? Yes. The US is very, very different to Spain. It's very difficult to explain why and how. I wouldn't go back to the US ever, like ever, honestly. I would go back to visit, but I wouldn't live there. I wouldn't live in a country that doesn't give public universal health care. I'm just not for it. There are a lot of things about the US that I wouldn't choose to live there as an adult, but growing up where I lived in Kalamazoo, Michigan, it was a beautiful place to grow up in. I would love to have a place that I can call, like, I am from this place, because every time someone asks me where I'm from, I'm like, that's a very difficult question to answer. I was born in Madrid, but I haven't lived there, to be honest. Like, I don't remember it, and I've been living here since I was like 9, but my accent has nothing to do with this, my traditions, my identity. I'm not from the US either, but you know, I grew up there and I speak the language. It's difficult. So yeah, Miss Emily Ghost, which is a gorgeous drag queen. Gorgeous drag queen. Actually, add her on my wish list for season 2. I didn't even think about her and Donica. I want the both of them in Drag Race Spain season 2. I didn't say like the 10 or 12 of them. I only said a couple. So I want you to add to that list Miss Emily Ghost and Miss Tonica Leprechaun. And Emily Ghost wanted to know, if I did drag, what type of drag or what style would I have, like with the categories that we know, like spooky queen, like weird queen, or whatever, and which references would I have. I already answered to her through Twitter. I have done drag, obviously. Like, I haven't done drag very often. Drag is not something that I can really afford. I can hardly afford rent. So I cannot afford a lot of like drag stuff, and I don't go out as much, but when I like danced and we were invited to parties, I would usually come in drag. I would be a drag king. Obviously, I do not know how I feel personally about making myself more feminine. I have a little trouble with that. I would like to play around. I would love to make myself, that's what I usually do, make myself more masculine. And I like my references, my personal references in like the drag scene are people that I believe are somewhat intellectual, but also have like a dark, dry sense of humor and are creative and different. I'm thinking obviously like Sasha Velour. I'm thinking obviously like Katia. Like, those are basically my favorite drag queens. I don't know any drag kings that have that type of vibe about them. I know a lot of drag kings in the US. I don't know a lot of drag kings in Spain. I know a couple online, but I would love to learn more about drag kings in Spain. So if you're a drag king in Spain and you want to have a little baby, just hit me up. And then I have my beautiful friend, Parody Paradise. Parody Paradise is a stylist. He has done clothes for some of the queens, especially Arancha. And I love this man so much. He's the cutest thing ever. He also does reviews of Drag Race España, and he's like the coolest icy bitch that I just love him. And he asked, when I asked people to leave me questions, he said, like, I want you to answer the question that whatever you want to answer and no one has asked you. And that question is, what are you going to do now that Drag Race España has ended with your channel? And that's what I'm going to announce. So, big announcement. I think that what I'm going to do is something similar to what I've been doing with Drag Race España, but I'm going to review La Veneno. Of course, I've watched La Veneno like 800 million times. But since a lot of people are watching it internationally and it's being like loved by a lot of people internationally, I want to continue to do some reviews explaining things of the culture, how I remember these things, because I'm like an old person and I was alive in all of these things that happened in Veneno. So I want to do that. What do you think? Do you like it? Is it a good idea? Will you continue like following me? If you haven't watched La Veneno, it's the perfect opportunity for us to watch it together. And if you did watch it, if you have watched it, we can watch it together again. So I think I'm going to do that. That's something that I could like spend hours and hours talking about. I'm not only interested in like the queer aspect of it or like the trans rights and the trans experience. I'm also very interested in this, like how they explain the story. So I hope you guys want to stay around to see the reviews for La Veneno. Honestly, if you haven't watched it, just watch it. Don't even watch my reviews. I don't care, but I just love that show very much. So that's everything for today. Thank you very much for leaving your questions. Thank you very much to all these people for their beautiful, beautiful PayPals. I'm going to leave my PayPal account down below. Thank you very much for everyone that has been helping. You're truly, truly making a difference in my life. Thank you very, very much. I have like new lighting, new memory things, like thank you. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video for the review of Veneno, episode 1. Stay queer. I love you.